So you're making your way with your new life in prison, and you have a 2 life on your record, meaning that you may never get out.
Right.
There's people that get 3 to life and end up doing life.
Right. I wasn't getting out. With my sentence, I wasn't getting out.
You weren't getting out.
That, not in the state of California, I wasn't getting out.
Now, at one point, you decide to do some money schemes, because money is as important, actually more important in prison than it is on the outside, because you have much more limited resources.
Yes. Goes further.
What type of schemes were you doing initially?
Initially, I was just selling like tobacco. Like I'll do like canteen stuff. Like we go to canteen, someone will run out of canteen, and I was running like a little store. I was doing stuff like that. And then I went from doing that to like wanting to be involved in the dope, because the way the dope game was, it was small amounts, but the money was big. But you had to have a way to move the product on the street. So if someone gave you the dope and they gave you the money, how would you get the money until you fixed? I didn't have the outside plug. So I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the girlfriends, the wife. I went in by myself with nothing. So when I got involved, everything was canteen and packages. I have a bunch of canteen in the cell. And then I jumped into the smuggling business, where the folks wanted me. So because I looked at younger and, they used to always say, you talk hella quick, mouthpiece. They wanted me to get cool with the staff who worked at a certain part of the institution where I could understand what was happening so we could smuggle stuff. So in doing that, I discovered things that I wanted to do myself with the business. So I got cool and I started transporting. So basically what I would do is I'd go to the buildings and people would be like, hey man, I got a cell phone. I got an ounce. I got this and I need this to go to sell such and such. So I'd go get it, take it. So I was like, I take it, $50, transit from here to here. You want 5 hats? Shoot them. So now you're gonna get me to take this phone from here to across the hall. You're gonna pay me 5 caps of weed? That's $50. So I started doing that. And before you know it, about a year, I was probably moving about $2,000 to $3,000, probably about $3,000 to $5,000 worth of products a day.
And was it
goods and stuff.
And was it a mentality of, well, I got life, so who cares? If I get caught, I'm still here. So
that was the original mentality. This mentality was more about business. Like I had really forgot about I'm doing life in prison. Like you here. So my goal was, what you gonna do while you here and get this thing going? So like I just never really started thinking about, cause I wasn't thinking about getting out no more. The business was, I was involved in prison politics. And when you were involved in prison politics, I had never been nobody. I had never, and people was like, what's up, Curdy Bo? You know what I mean? People knew who I was. I wasn't even doing stocks. I was just doing that shit. And I started transitioning over to the stocks.
Okay, so you come in at 17, illiterate. But by 20 years old, you teach yourself how to read and write.
I started teaching myself.
Yeah.
I started teaching myself.
And eventually you did learn how to read and write. And you said that the more educated you got, the less excuses you could make for yourself.
Right.
So you start realizing that you're here because of your own actions, not because of you being a victim or because of white people or because of whatever.
I didn't go that far. At that time, I looked at it like, your situation in prison, as far as your economic situation, is your fault. And ain't nobody gonna send you no money in your books. Ain't nobody finna support you. You got to do that yourself because you're here. And my thinking was, if you're gonna be involved in prison politics, how you gonna be involved in prison politics and you don't make no money? And you don't take over? And for me, it was just about going along to get along. And that's what I did until I got punished for that. And that's when I decided to take control and move fully fledged towards stocks. See, at that time, I was still heavily into politics. I was trading. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of thing. You know what I mean? And so, I was minorly talking to the guards and I got caught. I got caught talking to the guards. My folks and them caught me. They caught me and they tried to blackmail me and tried to take half the business and was like, we're gonna tell that you talked to the police. We're gonna tell the folks. And that's when I thought, I threatened them. Threatened both of them right on the spot. I stabbed both of you fools. You call me a snitch? If I let you call me a snitch and I don't say nothing and you go tell people, we got a problem. I threatened both of them right there on the spot. I stabbed both of you fools. Go get your knife. I walk off.
Had you stabbed anybody at that point?
Yes.
Okay. Had you been stabbed yourself?
No. And I walked off. They left, told the folks, hey man, he threatened us. But this what he did. He threatened us because we caught him talking to the police. He was snitching. So he threatened us, talking about he was trying to blackmail us, and they kicked this whole thing. So I got summoned to the meeting. I know they walk you over there. So I know 2 dudes standing at the front door, right? The 2 dudes at the door. I see the play and I'm thinking, what did I do? Well, old time walk, I'm trying to think, okay, what had I done? I can't figure out what I done for the summon. I get over there, folks, he like, man, sit down. And he had a knife on the bed. Crazy, it was crazy. And he was like, I'm gonna ask you some questions. And he was real calm about it. And he says, man, just be honest. He said, and what you say will determine your stay here. He said, and take your time. You got all day to answer. He said, what have you been talking to the police about? He crossed his legs, grabbed his coffee, looked up at the TV. And I sat there and thought. He looked at me and said, take your time. And I probably sat there for maybe 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, and I said, I've been talking to him about stocks. And he said, what's that? And I said, I went on, it's this. And he goes, what does that got to do with what we've been doing? And I said, I'm not understanding. I said, y'all wanted me to go out here and make this play, and I made the play, and now I'm trying to do the stocks thing, and it's a problem. What's the difference between what I'm doing and what we've been doing? I'm getting them the people to smuggle the shit. If we could do the stocks, we could make 10 times as money. It don't make no sense to me. It seemed like to me like y'all just mad that it wasn't your idea. And he looked at me and he said, your problem is you run your mouth too much and you think you're running something. But to show you, you ain't running nothing but your mouth. And they took me back there and whooped my ass for that shit and took the business from me.
Okay.
And I ended up going to the hole and I'm getting transferred from that institution. That was a whole nother thing, but